All right, let's fire
Um,
away.
let's
First of
do
all,
it.
I think that we should just put it on the table. We both loved the documentary. We both thought it was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, so should we just fire away with questions, do you think, Pavla?
yeah. I think we
Okay.
can start. Yeah.
My first question was actually around like your literal personality and your magnetism on camera. Is this something that came completely natural to you, or is this something that you had to kind of practice and develop?
It's something
How did it work?
I had to fake for the film, basically. No, like I mean, I actually don't appear much in front of the camera, just I think in about 15 shots or something.
Mhm.
So, and when I do appear, I just like set up the camera and I walked into the frame basically.
Mm.
So it is a bit set up, but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it works.
I mean, I think it does, but I was specifically meaning like your interview style is so casual and friendly and approachable as a
Ah, okay. You
person.
meant
Yeah,
that sense, like
yeah,
my presence with
yeah,
the
yeah.
characters. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just the main thing with documentaries for me is like approaching people in like a curious way, and like also like making sure that the camera is not an obstruction. So when I film them, I talk to them directly, and I just sort of have I just glance at the camera occasionally to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, but keep maintaining eye contact with the characters and trying to make sure they're engaged.
Mm. And now that you mentioned the camera not being an obstruction, I was actually wondering because a lot of the times it seems like these characters, I mean, these people have complete trust in you with like the things that they're confiding in you, because sometimes even though they are saying things that could be classified as racist, they're still saying it to you. So do you think the fact that you are a person with a camera kind of like hid the fact that you're a person of a color for them? Like did they trust you more because you're a director?
I mean, like, I don't think there's like a lot of racist comments in the film. Like, I mean, I'm not like a Borat, trying to get that out of people. But there are a couple. Yeah, there are definitely a couple of incidents like that. But in general, yeah, I mean, why those people said those things is probably because they didn't consider them racist from their own perspective. But yeah, generally I try to get people to show their good sides. I mean, I'm more interested in that.
Mm. And do you think that the fact that you were both a cameraman and the interviewer affected how they talked to you?
Yeah, I think like also when you're just one person or two people, but yeah, if you have the camera and you're also doing the talking, it's definitely a bit more intimate, and it also makes it seem like less of a big deal than if you were there with multiple people and everything, which is nice. People don't think it's so important sometimes, which makes it more relaxed. But yeah, that's definitely the persona also of my character in the film, this, man with the camera kind of thing.
Mm.
Yeah, I was wondering actually if you felt caught between the authenticity of capturing the moment live and like sort of documenting and pushing them into a certain way. But you said that you just set the camera and then have the conversation. So I'm assuming you'd roll for a really long time.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say so. Like sometimes, do you mean do I orchestrate things or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you know when you're interviewing someone, and some often people are nervous in front of a camera.
yeah.
If there was like you want to really dive into this conversation with this person, or like actually have this authentic moment, but at the same time you're focusing on this thing, like is it actually recording properly? Is this good content for
Yeah.
the film? Like
Right.
that.
Yeah. I guess you just have to think about both of those things at the same time. So that's the thing. I mean, there's different relationships with the main characters because the main characters are people you've befriended and over some time, and there are people who know more about what the project is and what else is going on beyond their scenes, and whereas the other spontaneous interactions are just like those people don't really have so much context, and those are sometimes more effort to gain that trust because they don't really know you, those kind of interactions. Yeah, but I generally try to choose people who give the impression that they want to be filmed. There's people who are like who are
Hmm.
not who don't like take a step back when they see a camera, who are who just don't yeah who just feel open even though that there's like this thing pointed at them. And that is not all people are like that, and maybe most people are not like that. But I try to find those kinds of people because the material usually ends up being better.
Hmm. And what about so everyone we see are those the only people you actually interviewed, or is there a lot more footage with people that you decided not to put in the edit?
Yeah, there's a few more people who could have been even, important characters, but who were dismissed from the film for different reasons because the film is already kind of dense with characters. And when we were editing, that's not a decision that's a decision that we took together with Binia Thompson, the editor of the film, while we were editing to see who we would keep as the main protagonists, and who we would keep returning to. Because sometimes, yeah, certain characters are maybe too similar or have their roles in the film repeat or like you know imitate each other. So then somebody has to go basically. So like, but it's a bit sad sometimes when you have to tell people that you filmed them but they're not in the movie. But it happened a few times. Yeah, and they're charming people. So there's a couple of other people who didn't make it to the cut for sure.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the nature of when you're filming a project like this. I was really curious watching the doco. I was wondering how many hours of footage you actually had.
About 100,
Mhm.
pretty close to 100. And yeah, I think that's kind of okay. I don't think that's too much, too wild.
I
But
think it's a reasonable amount, especially if there's
yeah.
interviews in there.
Yeah, but one thing I have to say that's it's really beneficial when you're shooting with a lot of characters is that you don't torment like one person for several years, like if you make a film about one person or two people or whatever it is for a lot, you know how it can get. It can get pretty tense after a couple of years. But if you just in the end, like I didn't have a lot of material with one person. And so you're not a burden, so much of a burden to these people. Yeah.
I noticed that when I referred to the people in the documentary, I used characters, and now I can hear you're also referring to them as characters. So I wonder how do you perceive your own film? So it is a documentary, but some of the things are very much so staged in them. But then for me, what's maybe like the most interesting is that you said that you chose a character to play, like at the beginning when Emma asked you about your personality on camera. So how, like, what is the relationship between the documentary part of the film and kind of like the fictional, let's say, part? How much of those people are actually like characters?
Um, yeah, I mean, for me, like I don't so much think about this fiction documentary division when I'm filming and stuff like that because S- also, I feel like in several scenes there is maybe an attempt to film it in a way that doesn't feel documentary necessarily. That feels more like the kind of a vibe you might have in a fiction film. Um, but yeah, I definitely tried to choose characters who had a lot of magnetism and who were open and funny, and that's I think a big strength of the film that these people are really charming. I mean, as for my role, I mean, yeah, my character is mostly in the voiceover, mostly present in the voiceover. Um, and like I wanted to be, I mean, I realized that also my story is also I had a need to kind of tell this story, but at the same time, I didn't want, to dominate the film. Like I wanted to give enough room to all these other characters, and also just sometimes function as a way of connecting things, connecting these different threads that are in the film.
I know for me that Oscar was one of the best quote unquote characters in the film. Has he been fairly popular in the feedback you're getting?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He is a very special person, and he has this crucial role in the film. He's probably the person I ended up filming the most with, actually. There's a lot more juicy material with Oscar. But yeah, he really has this he's very performative for the camera,
Yeah, he's got a
Yeah.
persona.
yeah. He dials it up a notch when he's being filmed, which I like, Some people might say that's, a little bit not authentic or whatever, but no, that's for me that's totally how it should be. And yeah, he's it's in Polish culture, Roma are like really not very present. There's hardly any movies. There was this one movie, Papusha, that had some Roma characters. But otherwise, they just, they're there in the society, but they don't appear in movies. Same like with, foreigners. So yeah, I was happy to have this chance to feature him in the film because it was also an accident how we met. It's just a total fluke on the street. I didn't even know he was Roma when I met him. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, for context, I'm an Australian. Pavla, who's not Julian Chang, is from Serbia. We're living in Hungary. And so we were watching the film as foreigners in a foreign land. And
Okay.
I was wondering if you developed a sort of protectiveness or some maybe like a special care for Oscar because of the way he was literally treated on cameras as well, I'm sure off camera.
Yeah, I mean, he also living in this small town and being, poor and stuff he has it really hard. It's really difficult what his everyday life. And yeah, I mean, I do feel sometimes to like like, that I should somehow maybe advise him on how to handle these situations because yeah, because they're difficult. And yeah, that's true. This protective feeling is there. Yeah.
And there's a situation when Oscar dances in front of the camera and we can hear a racist comment targeted at him. So I was wondering about that that exact moment in terms of you. So how is it being divided between staying a filmmaker, so staying kind of like behind the camera, not intervening, and like your human need to maybe like intervene and like make a comment or like maybe even like make a scene. So how's
Yeah.
that?
I mean, I did make a comment, I did talk to that guy. I told him not to say things like that. I think that's in the film, but um yeah, I mean, Oscar's way of dealing with that is just to ignore it. That happens a lot to him. That was not the only thing that I saw. It happened multiple times. It can happen even in one day. They just he doesn't necessarily look Roma, but people know that he's Roma, and that's enough. It's a small town, so they know, and that's enough for them to shout mean things at him. And some of those people might not say anything to me, even though I'm obviously not Polish, but they might have problem with him.
Mm.
It's kind of messed up. So, but yeah, I do intervene definitely
And
when I could just say something back, I did, but that
mm,
doesn't change, what happens. The dynamic is remains the same in that kind of place.
mm.
Mhm.
Sorry, I was gonna ask also about that relationship of you being both the filmmaker and the character of your own film. How do you think that affects the way the audience sees the film? Does that maybe make the documentary more authentic to them or less authentic?
Um, how does the audience perceive it? Well, yeah, I mean, I think like the audience mostly interprets my story through like what I'm saying in the film. So we wrote this voiceover also together with the editor Binia, and that's how like they kind of digest my story and through also my interactions with these characters. And I feel like even if I appear on camera and in a kind of stagey moment, that's okay because all the stuff, all those other interactions and the voiceover, the text that I'm narrating is authentic.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to know about how this project, living in Poland, and presumably the journey that this project has taken you on, is how has it actually developed you as a filmmaker?
Wow, yeah, that is a complex question.
Multi-layered.
Yeah. I mean, it was a huge challenge to make this film. So definitely, it was a big learning experience. Just, I mean, in the beginning, I mean, for a long time, I was just trying to accumulate good scenes and not really knowing how this would all fit in. Luckily, it came together in the edit and everything. But um, yeah, I was just chasing after these good scenes and good characters. But the edit was a big part of the why the film works, and that was another kind of experience, trying to figure out how to weave together all these stories and try to make it funny but also critical. But yeah, we didn't maybe really know exactly how it would be perceived, whether it would really be perceived as a funny film or like how good, the emotional um aspect of my story would work exactly. Those things, like, there were a lot of work and yeah, I mean, I can't, like, it just happened, so it's hard for me to summarize like how they affect me as a filmmaker because I'm still kind of going through this process. But it was definitely a huge learning experience.
And what about the role of the humor in the film? Because I thought one of the most successful things about your film was the actual rhythm of it, because anytime it would kind of start dragging into this like very emotionally disturbing story, you would come back with something funny. So was that intentional? Was that a part of your own personality, or?
Yeah, that was definitely intentional. That was like, how Polish movies can be pretty depressing, just like all the way through. So that definitely the goal was to not make that kind of movie. Uh, so we worked a lot on the text, on having, a joke ready when it was needed. And the characters were, provided plenty of jokes of their own. So yeah, if we were just telling the sad stories, then I don't think it would be very good.
To clarify, what year did you actually move to Poland?
2010.
So if the you in 2010 watched this documentary, what do you think he would say?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, it would be shocking for me. It would be shocking for me even that I was making documentaries because I never thought about making documentaries. I never watched them before going to film school. But yeah, it would all be quite a surprise, I think.
Well, that's an interesting point you made. So why then did you choose your film to be a documentary? What is it about the documentary as a form that was needed for this story to be told?
Um, Yeah, actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I did make a fiction film in which, like a student film in which I also acted, in which it was also like about being a foreigner in Poland. So I don't think it like necessarily had to be documentary. You could also say that it could be a fiction. but it's just the documentary is kind of convenient to shoot, and just like practically speaking, also like when I had this need to make this film, I could just go out and make it. That's the one of the big appeals of documentary, that you don't need the kind of resources you do, just practically. You can rustle things together, yeah, and get a film out of it.
Mm. And so I was telling them before you came, this film was already at Beldax in Belgrade previously, and it was a huge hit. They decided to show it after the festival at our Serbian cinemas. So it's interesting to me because the film is about a very specific issue. So it's about foreigners in Poland, but it seems to me, and Emma was also saying that the film is doing very well. So why do you think it speaks to such a broad audience?
Yeah, that was another thing that I wasn't like 100% sure about, the universality of it before, like because it's this very specific setup, like Indian in Poland is, sounds like very peculiar. But I'm really glad that people can empathize with it, because we worked a lot on that poetic aspect of just like giving the feeling of what it's like to not belong, or to have multiple identities or homelands. We tried to convey that through, not only through my story, but through the story of these other people. And I guess it works on this abstract, more poetic level, that and it is a thing that people know. People of any kind of immigrant can kind of maybe feel that, or feel some aspect of that. So yeah, that was great to discover that it worked for so many other kinds of people.
I don't have any further questions. I would just like to congratulate you again on making such a beautiful project. That
Thank
was
you
really
so much.
personal as well. So thank you for I guess the raw and the emotional side that you've showed as well.
Thank you so much for
Thank you for
watching.
the film. I feel like it speaks for you.
That's really nice. Thank you.